Hey guys, my name is Chris if you didn't already know, and welcome to my show SmegChris Review. I know, it's been a while, which is why I'm reviewing 3 films to catch up. So let's get into it, starting with Godzilla x Kong The New Empire, or is it Godzilla Kiss Kong, or Godzilla Times Kong? I don't know. And just so you know, this film's already out on DVD. That's how long it's been since I last watched it. So hopefully I'll remember what it was I saw. Just so you know, I've enjoyed this franchise so far. Godzilla, Kong Skull Island, Godzilla King of the Monsters, and of course Godzilla vs Kong. So what do I think of this film? It has its ups and downs. Literally. If you've seen the film you know what I'm talking about. If not, that's probably just gone straight over your head. Anyway, so it starts off with 3 plot points. Godzilla's going around destroying other monsters because he's trying to power up and nobody knows why. Eventually we do find out the reason. The second one is the humans. Rebecca Hall is back, but this time she's joined by Dan Stevens, and he's introduced when Godzilla's plot point comes up because he's busy venturing around, is it Inner Earth or wherever it is, inside Earth. He has a little bit of toothache and he needs to come back to the surface to get it sorted out. I know. I was like, what? Anyway, he comes up to the surface and that's where we're introduced to Dan Stevens, who does his best Ace Ventura impression. I'm not kidding, he's loud and obnoxious, flamboyant, he's wearing these very bright shirts. The only difference between him and Ace Ventura is Ace Ventura's funny, he isn't. I think even at one point somebody actually quips that he's trying to be Ace Ventura, or just calls him that, I think. Obviously that's what that character's based off of. I digress, let me move on. So anyway, he sorts out his tooth problem, Kong goes back to the Inner Earth or whatever it's called. Meanwhile the humans, they've decided they need to go and follow him because the research team that's there has gone radio silent, so they need to investigate. And then Kong's story develops. He comes across some other giant apes, has a big fight with them, ends up taking the smallest with him to show him where they've come from, and he finds this big enslavement camp full of giant apes, and the leader, he's got this other monster that scares Kong off, and basically he needs help to sort it out. And that's where all the storylines start to converge. We find out why Godzilla's powering up, and of course a big battle ensues. But I don't want to spoil too much about it. Let's just say that the battle I thought was amazing. I've said in a previous review that I've gotten kind of fed up with all these big giant monster fights over the years. This one was a unique one. But for the most part the film did feel like a Planet of the Apes movie. I'm not a fan of Planet of the Apes, so I kind of got a little bored at that point. To be honest, I wanted to see more Godzilla because I'm more of a fan of him than Kong. So as the movie progressed, the more I got into it. And I feel like they're just going to keep churning out this franchise movie after movie. They need to do some more standalone films, a standalone Godzilla and a standalone Kong, if they are going to keep up with this franchise. Anyway, so ultimately I give this film it's not the best in the franchise, but it's worth watching. And there's my review of that film. Let's move on to the next one, which is Fall Guy. Now I remember seeing the trailer for this film and I'm thinking, wow, that looks so unique, a brand new film that we've sort of seen before but not quite. And then it dawned on me. This movie is based on a TV series of the same name. It took a while for me to remember that. I never watched The Fall Guy when it was back on on TV, I think in the 80s. Possibly the 80s. Let me just check that. Yep, 1981 it started until 1986. Starring Lee Majors. Like I say, I barely remember it because I never watched it. I just knew it existed. So it started off with watching Ryan Gosling as a stunt guy, and he's in love with Emily Blunt's character, and an accident happens, and then it cuts to some time later where he's just left and ghosted her. We then find out that Emily Blunt's character has become a director and she's directing this big blockbuster movie, but her lead actor has gone missing and she doesn't know this. And so Ryan Gosling's character, he ends up being coerced into going looking for the actor. And up until that point, I found the film to be very, very slow and a bit dull. Honestly, the first hour of the film just felt like nothing was really happening. And then things started to happen. He starts having fights, he gets into tussles, he gets captured, explosions happen. And so the film did pick up and I started getting more interested in it. One of the things that I liked about the film was the amount of stunts that was happening. You could see that everything was practical, there wasn't very much in the way of CGI. It was amazing. And this was enhanced by, while the end credits were rolling, they were showing all the stunts happening in real time. And it was just fantastic to see. To be honest, it felt like the film was all about celebrating stunt people and how brilliant they are, which is no bad thing. Of course, when it started getting towards the end and there was a twist, I was like, yeah, I know exactly what's going to happen, and sure enough, it did. It was kind of a cliche, really. But towards the end, we had a couple of cameos that had me smiling immensely. So that improved the film somewhat. Like, for example, after a bit of the end credits, another scene appears with a cameo that really had me smiling. I'm like, cool! Literally, I went, cool! But to me, it's going to be one of those films where I'll probably never watch it again. I did enjoy it, but it's not enough for me to stick in my collection. Cut to a few years later where it is in my collection. We'll see. But with that being said, I'm going to give The Fall Guy it's a decent film, but not the best. Totally worth it for the stunts though. So the last film I'm reviewing is Bad Boys Ride or Die, and I can safely say that this is still in the cinema because I only watched it last week. Wow, I'm actually reviewing a film within a week of watching it. I know, I'm going to faint myself. Now let me just start by saying I love the Bad Boys franchise. I loved the first one when it came out. The second one is still my favourite. And I even enjoyed the third one when it came out 4 years ago. And I can safely say I enjoyed this fourth instalment too. Now just a quick note. They should have kept the title of the last one for this one because it was Bad Boys for Life and it's the fourth one, so they could have had Bad Boys 4. Which way? That way. Life. But never mind. It's a pretty decent title, I guess, Bad Boys Ride or Die. So the beginning is a little absurd for two reasons. One, Will Smith's character, Mike, is getting married. What's that all about? He never gets into a relationship and sticks with it. I guess it was finally time for him to do that. And the second absurd thing was Martin Lawrence's character, Marcus. He has a heart attack at the wedding and ends up in this sort of spiritual realm where he meets his old captain who starts giving him advice. And I'm like, what is going on? But one of the things that he was told in this spiritual realm was that it's not his time. So when he comes out of his coma, he thinks, oh, I'm invincible, I can do anything. And he just starts walking into hails of bullets, or he's like stood on top of a building. Yeah, it was a little crazy, but it added some humour to the film. But it was nice also to see Martin Lawrence's character doing more in this film than he did in the last one. I felt like in the third one he was solely unused. So the story starts where some cartel members decide that they're going to frame their old captain, make it look like he was on the take and stuff like that. So the boys decide they've got to defend him because, you know, the captain's dead, he can't defend himself. And the more deeper they get involved, the more that they end up getting framed as well, and they become fugitives on the run. And it doesn't help that Mike's son gets involved with it. He's still in prison, but they start targeting him as well, and so they have to escape with him, and that sort of drives the thought that they're on the take as well and that they're fugitives. So the first like 30-40 minutes of the film, I was like, when's the action going to start? And then it did, and it was just one thing after another, and I'm like, yeah, this is Bad Boys. I have to say, however, when I saw one actor appear as a character in the film, I'm like, bad guy. And I was right. I mean, he started off as someone who's on their side and he's a good guy and he's very polite, blah blah blah. Yeah, I was instantly, as soon as I saw him, I'm like, he's the bad guy. And I wasn't wrong. But for a Bad Boys film, this was great. It was a lot better than the third one. I'm not saying the third one was bad, I'm just saying it's a lot better. And it was also weird because it felt like that this Bad Boys came way too soon. By that I mean the first one came out in 1995, the second wasn't until 8 years later in 2003, and then we had to wait another 17 years for the third one. It's only been 4 years since that one, so it felt a little too soon, in my mind anyway. But I've got a feeling it's sort of a reinvigoration of the franchise and we may start seeing more of them. I don't know. I mean, I don't mind. And I've just remembered one scene where one of the side characters shows his metal and it's just an incredible scene. Honestly, I don't want to spoil it. Let's just say that is a character that we thought was always timid. He proves that he's not. Also, some of the characters that were introduced in the third one have come back for this one, which I thought was a welcome return. However, there's one person who didn't return. Well, let me just Google her name. Yeah, Teresa Randall. She was in the first three. She doesn't come back as Teresa in the fourth one. Apparently she's retired from acting and she was replaced with Tasha Smith. Yes, I'm using my phone to find out. I can't keep it all up here, can I? I said it before and I'll say it again. Old man memory. Yeah, when we saw Marcus going to his wife, I'm like, who is that? So of course afterwards I googled and found out. But overall, I did enjoy the movie. Like I said, I'm a fan of the Bad Boys franchise. But in the end, I give Bad Boys Ride or Die a very worthy sequel. I really enjoyed it. And there you go, I finally caught up. Wow, am I feeling okay? Anyway, that's it for this episode. I'm sure I'll be back with another one in about, what, 4 or 5 months? Not really. But it is now time for me to go. So all that's left for me to say is thank you for watching and subscribing if you have, and liking this video if you did. Until the next time, peace out. Just to point out, I've always loved the character of Godzilla, especially the Japanese ones where there's like men in big rubber suits kicking the crap out of cardboard buildings. Yeah, I enjoyed them. I even enjoyed the 1998 Godzilla movie. I know it's a pile of cack, but I enjoyed it. And like I say, I enjoy this franchise. However, there's one film I've not talked about, I've not reviewed, but I just want to mention it here. Godzilla -1. Oh my god, is that a brilliant film, and you must watch it. Out of the current franchise, Godzilla -1 wipes the floor with all of them. And I'm not even kidding.